Hi guys, in today's video I'm gonna actually show you what is a Metasploit, though we've told before. You've seen arithmetic in the previous video, but now it's time for a CLI or command line interface. You're gonna see what's Metasploit, how it works, what it does, and why do we need to learn it. So now to start Metasploit, this tool is built in Kali. If not, single, how can you install it? It's not that simple as installing the other tools, but Go knows everything. So in Kali it's built in, and to run Metasploit, just start MSF console. Now just wait a little bit. Now it's gonna start initializing all the plugins, initializing all the database, all the modules, the exploits, the payloads. It's just loading everything. You see it's starting the Metasploit framework. Now we starting everything, and we have to just wait a little bit. And now we see here a pretty decent looking banner and some kind of a shell. And therefore we see the version here, we see the website, we see how much exploits the Metasploit has generated, how much auxiliary, how much posts, payloads, encoders, and two evasions. Yeah. So we have shell here, and we can generate new banner by typing banner, and you see it's changing different times. So now we can clear that, and you see that we can use commands like clear, commands like actually ifconfig, commands like ping, so we are getting a ping here. Yeah, so we can use a lot of built-in Linux commands. But here we have a special comments about the Metasploit shell, and now we see the same black screen here, but the difference here is that we have the MSF5 here instead of root Kali, as we see here in the directory. So now we have to exit there, and we have to even ls the files. So now you see that we are working on desktop, so that means in that directory you cast and start Metasploit, it's gonna work on that directory, and if the Metasploit generates some file, the files will be stored in the directory you've casted it. So now, before we actually start Metasploit, we were in a desktop directory, and so when we release the directory, we see the desktop items, and if we generate some file from the Metasploit, they are gonna be generated in the desktop. So this is the basics of how it works. So now let's just use the show command. So show, we go for argument required, so show exploits, and this thing now is gonna list all the possible exploits. It's gonna go and communicate with the database and list all the available exploits there. Just wait a little bit. We can do that for payloads, for encoders, for anything. It's a universal command, so it's taking time because, as we saw, there are many exploits loaded by the system in the database. So it's normal to actually take a time and to actually load a lot of stuff, so don't worry about it. Okay, so the exploits were actually extracted to our screen, and we can see that the exact same pattern is followed here. So we have a window, so the platform, the service, and the actual exploit. As you can see, Windows, TFTP Windows, SMB, and the list goes on. Then we have the release date of the exploit. Then we have the rate of the exploit. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it great? Is it excellent? And we are actually using the excellent exploits in most cases. Is it verified? And brief description about what's the exploit for. For example, we see here like that one is a ultra VNC client both overflow. We see here that this is quick FTP pro transfer mode overflow. We see here like long file name buffer overflow. So there are many exploits. And as you can see, they are specified by the same regex, by the same pattern. So they have the platform, they have the service, they have the exact exploit, then we have the date, then we have the quality of the exploit, then we have is it verified here, yes, no, and then we have the brief overview about what's the actual the exploit. So now we have either browsers, we have many stuff, and we can do this by and we can repeat that step with the payload. So show payloads. We're gonna need to wait again, and they are just so they're not that much as the exploits, but we have still many payloads in our sleeves. So we can see the same pattern here: Windows architecture, the type of the shell, the type of the environment, and the actual type of the connection and the actual type protocol of the connection method. So now, for example, we have Windows 64 bits meterpreter bind TCP, Windows 64-bit meterpreter reverse HTTP. So these are all the available payloads. So now clear that. Now we can search for the exact vulnerabilities or payload. So for example, we can go like search Apache, and this is going to give us all the Apache exploits that are available here on that Metasploit framework. So we can scroll down and we see all the Metasploit modules about all the Apache vulnerabilities out there which are stored in that database. And we can do this like for search Windows, and it's gonna get the same thing, post Windows manage. Those are all kind of exploits. So for example, let's see how to actually choose and implement exploit. So for example, let's go for use. This is the use keyword, is like to specify what we want to use. So for example, use exploit, and then we have specified the platform, so Windows. Windows, and then it's gonna display all the available options. So yes, for example, let's say Windows x64 bits, or no, actually Windows. Okay, so actually Windows browser. There, for example, we can go for like Adobe, Flash Player, AVM. And now we specified an exploit. Keep in mind that this is a completely random exploit. I just need to specify some in order to show you how it's done. So for when we specify exploit, you can see that our shell is changed, and we have now the exploit in use. So now we can actually show options, and we can see all we need to validate in order to run that exploit. And you can see that fields are required. So if we do not specify that fields, the exploit cannot run. And there we can actually show targets, and the targets here are automatically. So for example, we can go like search Apache, and that's how it's done, like search Apache exploits. And therefore, for example, you see that and enumerate that, for example, the Apache Tomcat was actually vulnerable to that exploit. So that, copy that, Ctrl-Shift-C, use, Ctrl-Shift-V, show options. And we can now here specify all the parameters using set. For example, set host 192.168.1.1, for example. With the set we can specify, and therefore with back we go back, as you can see, to our previous shell. But now let's just use that exploit to see how it's done. So show options, we specify their host, we specify their port, so we can go for show targets. We have targets like Windows Universal, Linux Universal, Windows Universal, Linux 86-bit, which means 34, and Java Universal. So by typing exploit or run, we can actually shoot that exploit and try that against our target. So after running exploit, now the Metasploit is starting to send in all the packets. As you can see, exploit aborted due to failure, not found. So this is what it has actually searched for and tried to do. It is giving the output that it was not successful, because we are throwing exploits that are not vulnerable to that machine. But I just need to make the point here and just to show you how to use Metasploit. So just with the show we specify we see like all the options, we specify that options, and with exploit or run, we actually run that options and run that exploit if we find it's vulnerable. So now the process seems a lot easier. Search for information, search for vulnerabilities, validate those vulnerabilities, and based on them, search for an exploit. So we can get search eternal. So we have the eternal one, and therefore in the next video we're gonna start to use that eternal bool and actually try to hack into our Windows machine. So thank you guys for watching. This is the Metasploit basics, and keep in mind that this is really highly used and amazing tool. It can run Linux commands, it can actually use many exploits. There are many modules and many predefined exploits that are ready to use. Just specify the target as we see and click, and then just type run, and that's all we have to do. As you can see, it's automatic, it's doing an automatic job, but as the Nessus, it's not invisible. So doing Metasploit is not invisible, so you need to keep that in mind. Be careful if that's your point to be invisible. Be careful because Metasploit is heavy. Metasploit is sending a lot of packets, and Metasploit does not actually care that if you are visible or not. So it's just doing its work, doing the exploit, and so on. So you see that always the manual validation, the manual exploits are better. But for simplicity and easier understanding, we're gonna use Metasploit. You need to know how to use Metasploit, and you see the interface is pretty easy to actually play around with. You just search for exploits based on vulnerabilities. If you find any, use that exploit. You can set payload, you can set different parameters. For example, let's go back, let's go clear, let's go for use exploit multi-handler. So this is a multi-platform exploit, and this is basically a handler for our shells. And here we can actually specify like set payload, like Windows, Meterpreter, I click tab and it's gaining more time to actually calculate all the Meterpreter stations there, or the payloads. So I'll just give it time. When you click tabs on Meterpreter, and then go for example, reverse TCP, then show options. Now you see that, and the exploit actually is not having any options because the only thing it has is actually handling any connection. That's all it has to do. The exploit is just multi-handle, it handles the connection, and it does not actually need to know from where it's coming, it just handles that connection. But the options here we have to specify is the actual payload. So the payload has L port and L host. We have to specify that options and run that. And whenever we generate a backdoor, which you're gonna see in future videos, and run that backdoor, we're gonna get a shell. So stay tuned guys, this is how Metasploit works. It's really simple. Search for exploit, set all the parameters, and run that exploit. It's really that automatic and simple. You just need the proper enumeration, a proper validation of vulnerabilities, and therefore a proper searches for that vulnerabilities in order to do a successful exploit. So as you can see, and as I repeat myself, the successful exploits depends on successful enumeration and successful vulnerability analysis. So now I hope you really understand what I'm talking about, and I'm gonna see you in the next video when we're going to attack our Windows machine. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video.